Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. And our top story, the 15th seat in the 32nd legislature is open and a special election will be held in order to complete the legislative body. Special elections are not a new idea to the Virgin Islands. We have had them in 1977 and in 1993. But senators met today to address an act that could delay the scheduled elections. Here's an update.
The 32nd legislature met today to address what the legislature deems as loopholes in Act 7892 of Bill number 32-0017, which went into law on January 1st of this year. This act called for uniformity of the St. Croix Board of Elections and the St. Thomas St. John Board of Elections as a single board. Attorney General Claudie Walker explained the importance of the act further.
In short, this legislation attempts to reinstate the law of old, which calls for 2 boards of election. The department believes that this would create inconsistencies in rules and regulations between the 2 boards. The purpose of having a unified board is to help resolve some of those inconsistencies, eliminate contradictions between the 2 boards, and ensure the smooth administration of elections throughout the territory.
In order to fulfill the missing Senate seat in the 32nd legislature, left open after Kevin Rodriguez was deemed ineligible to take oath, actions must be taken. Arturo Watlington, chairman of the St. Thomas St. John Board of Elections, spoke further.
This act took effect January 1, 2017, and what it did, it dissolved the district boards. So that's why we have the confusion.
Also, Bill number 32-0017, appropriating $140,000 to fund the special elections, was up for consideration, and Associate Director of the Office of Management testified on the economic strains that the Virgin Islands is already under.
Although the intent of the bill is very justifiable and is indeed necessary, I must remind you of the territory's current financial state. Therefore, OMB recommends that the bill be amended to appropriate the $140,000.
At the end of the legislative session today, members of the 32nd legislature voted favorably for Bill number 32-0017 and also voted to approve Bill number 32-0022, appropriating $140,000 to fund the special elections on April 8th.
That was Stephanie Brown reporting. The legislature voted favorably to unify the Board of Elections. Both bills deliberated on the legislative floor will be sent to Governor Kenneth Mapp for further consideration. Be sure to count on 2. We'll keep you updated. Well, turning to crime reports, on February 20th, the 911 call center reported at 10:02 p.m. a 22-year-old female being abducted from her residence and robbed. Here's more from the VIPD.
The victim stated that her friend, Tiffany Mendez, 35 years old, came to her house and Miss Aisha Smith, 35 years old, demanded that she go with them. The victim refused and Miss Mendez drew a gun on her and forced her into the vehicle. Another female in the vehicle, Ebony Hercules, 30 years old, punched her while she was in the back seat as they drove to the Lagoon Beach entrance in Christiansted. The victim reported she was robbed approximately $40 and a personal identifications. On February 21st, 2017, between 3 a.m. to 4 a.m., Aisha Smith, Tiffany Mendez, and Ebony Hercules were all arrested and charged with kidnapping for robbery. All 3 individuals were remanded to the Golden Grove Detention Facility pending advice of rights hearing.
In other reports, a 25-year-old St. Thomas woman has been advised of her rights on a single charge of embezzlement. Lanique Abbott of Altona appeared before Magistrate Henry Carr following her arrest on February 19th. He then ordered her to abide by a number of court-imposed bail conditions, which include having no contact with witnesses and surrendering her passport. According to a report, Abbott worked as a cashier at the Home Depot store. Video surveillance footage showed Abbott taking money from the store's cash register. Abbott admitted to her employer and police that she stole about $5,000 over the period December 9th, 2016 to February 18th, using another employee's ID to pilfer the money. BI Superior Court Magistrate Henry Carr found probable cause to move forward on false imprisonment and related charges against Elijah Henry. Henry, 25, of Oswald Harris Court Housing Community, is charged with 1 count each of false imprisonment, disturbance of the peace, third-degree assault, assault and battery, and second-degree assault in connection with an incident that occurred in the pre-dawn hours of Tuesday. Hours after his arrest, Henry appeared before Magistrate Carr Tuesday morning for an advice of rights hearing, during which Magistrate Carr found probable cause to sustain the charges and set a $25,000 bail for Henry, allowing him to post $1,000 in cash and execute an unsecured appearance bond for the remaining $24,000. He was also ordered to adhere to a number of court-imposed bail conditions, which include having no contact with the victim and reporting telephonically to the Office of Probation twice weekly. He's accused of beating a woman while detaining her at her apartment. The victim's mother told police that she telephoned her daughter several times, but after getting no response from her, she went to her daughter's apartment. When the mother arrived at the daughter's apartment, she began pounding on the door. No one answered her knock, but she heard someone from inside the apartment calling for help. The mother called 911. Police arrived on the scene, and the victim told police that Henry beat and choked her and kept her from leaving the apartment. The victim was taken to Schneider Hospital to be treated for contusions to the face and head. Well, a community meeting and candlelight vigil is scheduled. Organizers say there are too many shootings, too many murders, and too many unsolved crimes. Tutu area residents will be meeting on February 23rd at 6:30 p.m. at the Faith Christian Fellowship Church Alive in Christ and Estate Anna's Retreat, hosted by Senator Brian Smith, Kappa, Community and Police Association, Virgin Islands Peace Clergy. They say this is an opportunity to address concerns and solve problems as a community. Keeping our eye on the economy, let's take a look at the stock market watch with the New York Stock Exchange. Numbers coming up shortly there. We can see the Dow up 118, NASDAQ 27, S&P 500 up 14. Coming up on News 2, our Black History feature. Who is known as the father of Black history? That's coming up. Welcome back. Time for our Caribbean news. In Dominica, several opposition members continue to be questioned in regards to the February 7th protest in Roseau, while a businessman called for calm to the violence. Here's an update.
A businessman has called for calm as opposition members continue to be questioned on suspicion of what authorities say was an attempted plot to overthrow the government. Member of Parliament for Roseau Central, Joseph Isaac, is the most recent opposition member taken in for questioning by the police stemming from the February 7th protest in Roseau. Joseph was picked up by police early Monday morning and later released without being charged. Businessman Parry Bellot is concerned with the image currently being portrayed of the country to the outside world.
It disturbs me, the events that happened that day and night, especially the night incidents, because as I'd mentioned earlier, I was one who really felt that Dominica really had this perception overseas that we're a very peaceful country, although of course we had our big incident in May 29th, which ended, by the way, in a constitutional coup. And there were a lot of indices that were very different. In other words, there was a massive belief by most of the population and organizations in the country had all issued statements that the government was not doing things properly and they really should resign. There was this massive sword. You don't have that massive. All you have are two political parties.
The Prime Minister had said that according to intelligence, the rioters were paid to rebel against police who were guarding government's buildings on Kennedy Avenue at the time. Last week, former UWP Deputy Leader Claudia Sanford was charged with obstruction in relation to the recent protest.
We'll turn our attention back at home. Did you notice the tall ship in Charlotte, Mali? Well, it sailed in today and will be here until March 1st. The El Galeon is a full-size reconstructed Spanish sailing vessel used in the 16th to 18th century. It's here after a journey from Puerto Rico to the Gulf of Mexico, U.S. East Coast, Canada, and back to Spain. El Galeon is a 500-ton, 160-foot long vessel with a 32-foot beam. Its 4 masts hold 6 sails that measure nearly 11,000 square feet. Commissioned by the Neo Victoria Foundation and launched in 2009, the living history ship was converted into a floating museum with 5 of the vessel's 6 decks available for tours. Features include an exhibit on San Peleo, the Spanish galleon that was instrumental in the founding of St. Augustine, the first city established by European settlers in what is now the state of Florida. The vessel carries an all-Spanish crew that lives and breathes the history of the ship, and it travels from port to port in the open sea. El Galeon is open to visitors daily from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. The 340 Group LLC in Yacht Haven there is providing planning and logistics support. We will have more on that ship. The 31st of March is recognized every year as Transfer Day in the United States Virgin Islands, and this year the Virgin Islands will be commemorating the 100-year anniversary that occurred when the Danish West Indies were transferred to the United States by Denmark. 2 residents gave their opinions on the centennial.
Excited about the 100th centennial of the transfer. It was a major step in our development, one step along the way. We little by little got to run our own government, 54 Organic Act. Then recently we were able to get our own Supreme Court, and we're on our way.
It's 2017, this is February, and we're going to celebrate Black History Month, and then next month we're going to VI History Month, and we're going to be proud of all our accomplishments. But then on the 31st, we're going to celebrate 100 years of our colonial history. Do not celebrate colonialism. According to the United Nations, colonialism is a crime against humanity. And that has direct impact on our status, not only political status, but our status as Virgin Islands. Here, we have to seek consent, we have to seek permission from the U.S. to do any kind of business tradings with any other country because of our colonial status.
And speaking of the centennial, the Caribbean Genealogy Library, CGL, they will host Evening at the Library on February 24th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. This is a free open house event, welcoming the community to stop in and see what history treasures are available in the library's collection and books and records. The focus of this event is the centennial. Books and records related to transfer from the collection will be out on display along with other items, including old photos and video. Stop by to chat with others about VI history, culture, and genealogy, the 3 parts of the library's mission. Neighboring Mango Tango, they will feature the artwork of 2 highly regarded in figurative work, paintings and sculpture, Mel McCudden and Mandy Thotty. In continuing our Black History Month celebration, the man known as the father of Black history, Carter G. Woodson, he was the son of former slaves and understood how important gaining a proper education is when striving to secure and make the most out of one's divine right of freedom. Although he did not begin his formal education until he was 20 years old, his dedication to study enabled him to earn a high school diploma in West Virginia and bachelor and master's degrees from the University of Chicago in just a few years. In 1912, Woodson became the second African American to earn a PhD at Harvard University. Recognizing the lack of information on the accomplishments of blacks in 1915, Dr. Woodson founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, now called the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.
Weather on on the way for the Virgin Islands. Taking a look at our current satellite, we see this area of low pressure out towards the Atlantic, and a large cold front behind it has been dragging in some extra moisture out towards the Leeward Islands, and we saw a couple of those showers as well. But as we take a closer look, most of those showers held out more towards our east here. Now, as we continue throughout the rest of the week and into the weekend, pretty decent weather moving ahead over the next couple of days. However, we will start to see our winds shift out of the south, and we'll be pulling up some subtropical moisture, and I'll talk about that in our extended outlook. But for tonight, partly cloudy conditions here, 72 degrees for our low. Into tomorrow, partly sunny conditions going to stick around across much of the area. We're not seeing really anything out on the waters as far as disturbances that we continue to see as well coming out of the north into those north-facing beaches. So that is going to be a possibility as well. So small craft exercise and caution is encouraged here on the Atlantic side. Waves 3 to 5 feet. Winds right around 10 knots out of the northeast. Once again, what's causing that small craft exercise caution is actually the swells coming in from those storms across the Atlantic. Now on the Caribbean side, things are just a touch different. We see our waves 2 to 4 feet here. No small craft advisory or warnings in effect, and we are seeing our winds fairly light as well out of the northeast, 5 to 10 knots. Now here's a look at your extended forecast. As we head into the weekend, we'll start to see an uptick in our moisture, especially going into our Sunday. So passing showers until then. By Sunday, however, chances of stronger thunderstorms going to be possible as well, as we start to see a lot of that moisture drawn up from the subtropical areas. So definitely going to want to stay tuned into News 2 weather for all of your forecasts and updates moving forward. Back to you, Sandy.
Thanks for that. We are definitely feeling that cold front. Ayoma Russell is our star tonight of Ricardo Richards Elementary School, sharing this picture right there. It looks like a Point Udall. Ayoma, thank you for that. Blue skies we can see. Send us your News 2 weather picture to the address right there on the screen, and then tune in to see us right here on News 2. And be sure to send in your weather pictures. We are running out. That is all for this edition of News 2. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sandra Gumansing. Have a wonderful evening.